1 million hectares have been burned so far in California as uncontrolled fires driven by high winds and unprecedented temperatures rage across the west coast of the U.S. The state governor, Gavin Newsom, has said he has no patience for climate change deniers, as the experience of the past few days was proof. So they're raging through uncontrolled fires driven by high winds and unprecedented temperatures. But let's not talk about the mismanagement of forestry in California. Let's not talk about the historic mismanagement of forestry, the refusal to do controlled burns, which have been used for thousands of years, right? That in the Pacific Northwest, the indigenous populations that live there, right, the Indians used to always do controlled burns. They were doing controlled burns all the time. And they were keeping the brush on the forest floor clear using ruminants. They actually were using basically silvopasture practices and a lot of the same techniques that are being taught by Alan Savory in the regenerative agriculture world. They were using these practices for silvopasture, using the deer, using elk, using the natural fauna in California. And they used to have controlled burns all the time. The Indians used to control burn all the freaking time. But they refuse to do this in California. They set up these tinderbox situations where this is bound to happen. And they've been warned about it over and over again. But every time it happens, guess what gets blamed? Climate change. Guess whose fault climate change is? Yours. Climate change is my fault, your fault. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to talk about that there are full-on exchanges, right? You can go and make money betting on the weather and manipulate the weather using geoengineering strategies. There are hundreds of companies, private contractors and government contractors, and even governments who have been using geoengineering and they call it solar radiation management now, spraying your freaking skies and blocking out the sun and spreading powderized barium and aluminum oxide all over the place. They don't talk about this. No, they just say the climate's changing and that's your fault. It's your fault because you want to drink, you're drinking racist milk, right? It's your fault because you won't put your daughter on OnlyFans. It's your fault because you won't go vegan. You won't pay more taxes. You won't stop having cars, having children, having property. You won't give up more of your freedoms to a global technocracy. This is what we're told over and over again.
I'm a little bit exhausted that we have to continue to debate this issue. This is a climate damn emergency. This is real. And it's happening. This is the perfect storm. It is happening in unprecedented ways. Year in.
If I put my finger like this when I talk, it makes it seem like I'm more right. So just more rhetoric, right? Look, it's an emergency, climate emergency. What do you want us to do about it? What do you want us to do about it? Oh, it's all the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, right? Consolidation of resources, UN, global governance, managing resources, World Economic Forum, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, managing all resources, tracking everything you do, tracing everything you do, manipulating you with algorithms, and ultimately rationing you all things, right? It's the abolition of private property. This will save the planet.
Year out. I mean, you can exhaust yourself with your ideological BS by saying, well, 100 years ago we should have done this or that. All that may be true. And I'm not going to suggest for a second that the forest management practices in the state of California over a century plus have been ideal. But that...
These people just laugh in your face. They don't care what truth is. It doesn't matter to these folks. It doesn't matter.
That's one point, but it's not the point. The reality here is the mega fires that we're experiencing come from these mega droughts that we've experienced. We have now currently have 5 active fires that are 5 of the most destructive fires over the last, in the history of the state. 5 of the 20 most destructive that are currently being
although exasperated movements, gesticulating wildly, and he has nothing to say. It's just feigned emotion. It's feigned emotion. These are propaganda techniques.
Suppressed, which is just remarkable when you consider that. We just came out August, the hottest in recorded history. 19 people have lost their lives in these fires. We anticipate that number may potentially go up as we get back into areas that have been ravaged by flame, and obviously smoke begins to clear. 3,900 plus structures have been destroyed. Many more structures we anticipate we will learn about over the course of the next days and weeks. The debate is over around climate change. Just come to the state of California.
Yeah, anytime there's a fire, it's all climate change, right? Anything that happens, climate change. You get a car accident, it's climate change. It's all climate change. You just come to California, look, it's climate change. He's not mentioning all the arson. Right, what's up with all these accusations of arson? Right, like you just do like a quick Google search. We got The Intercept, Oregon police inundated by false reports of Antifa arson. False reports. No, that couldn't be. It's false. What do you got this? We got man charged with arson in Alameda fire. A man has been arrested and charged with arson for setting a fire in Phoenix that contributed to the spread of what's now being called the Alameda Fire Complex. Fire Complex. Now, we're getting all of these reports. You're seeing all these reports, especially out of Oregon, of arson. Of arson. But the media, they're not talking about this. They're telling you, oh, the gender reveal party. Oh, it's so bad. It's so oppressive to reveal gender. The child hasn't even chosen yet. South King Fire reports 28 arson fires so far this month? Southern Oregon police make arson arrest for second blaze set during Alameda fire. But then at the same time, you got media outlets telling you, no, these are fake calls. They're fake calls. Oregon police inundated with false reports of Antifa arson. False claims that anti-fascists are starting forest fires have been spread by supporters of Trump. So it's if you see somebody committing arson, you talk about it, you must be like a crazy Trump supporter, right? Orange man bad supporter. We don't talk about this. But listen to what Newsom says here.
Observe it with your own eyes. It's not an intellectual debate. It's not even debatable.
There's no intellectual debate about climate change. It's not even debatable. Look, the climate's changing. It's your fault.
California. Observe it with your own eyes. It's not an intellectual debate. It's not even debatable any longer.
So no intellectual debate is allowed. There are no counterfacts allowed. I've made up my mind. This is it. And anybody who tries to bring you counterfacts, those are just hate facts.
What we are experiencing, the extreme droughts, the extreme atmospheric rivers, the extreme heat. Just think, in the last few weeks alone, we've experienced the hottest August in California history. We had 14,000 dry lightning strikes over a 3-day period. We're experiencing temperatures, world record-breaking temperatures in the state of California, 130 degrees. California, folks, is America fast forward.
Now, that's one of the only true things he's even said. California is America fast forward. That's right. California is the onus point, the occult dissemination point, the acupuncture point on the butt of the festering behemoth of this new global order that we see. California is the spurting fountainous anus of hell that's just pouring out all this idolatry, all this terrible pop culture, this weaponized pop culture, this drug culture, all this pedo stuff that you see coming out of California, which we might have to talk about this. Maybe we'll do on Monday. We can talk a little bit about some other things. You've got to be careful what you do on YouTube. But I had an interesting interaction with another YouTube channel on Twitter. Maybe we'll get to that later. But yeah, he's right. California is the world fast forwarded if the world continues down this stupid path of worshiping the world, right? Hollywood, Silicon Valley. You're right, dude. You're several steps ahead of the rest of America in terms of destroying yourselves, destroying your children.
What we're experiencing right here is coming to a community all across the United States of America unless we get our act together on climate change, unless we disabuse ourselves of all the BS that's being spewed by a very small group of people that have an ideological reason to advance the cause of a 19th century framework and solution. We're not going back to the 19th century.
So if you don't want to have Green New Deal, if you don't want to have total technocracy, everything in your life tracked, traced, if you don't want to just become, a transhumanist, transient, a transgender, transhumanist, transient, vegan activist, if you don't want to do that, then you're terrible. You're terrible. Right, so the Newsom's going hard. Who knows where he's going to go next, but this dude is burning. His state is burning to the frickin' ground, and it sucks to see because California is actually one of the most beautiful places in the world. California is unmatched in beauty in many ways, and has some of the most fertile farmland that is managed so shittily. Has some of the most amazing fertile forests that are managed so shittily. And there's so much food available there. But it's been managed into the ground. It's been effectively destroyed by some of these nutcases. I don't know. Newsom's been pissing me off. I don't even live in California anymore, but I still got family there. Newsom rails against climate change deniers. As historic wildfires rage across California, TimesHeraldOnline.com says, what we're experiencing here is coming to communities all across the United States of America unless we get our act together on climate change, Governor said. So what is the solution, though? Right? What's the solution? I'm exhausted that we have to continue to debate this. This is happening. It's happening in unprecedented ways. Okay, so there's a problem, right? Let's see if we can find any sort of solution. Newsom said he recognized the state has to do more when it comes to prescribed burns and forest management. They don't do any prescribed burns. There's no controlled burning happening. Like I said before, for thousands of years, it was being managed like silvopasture regeneratively. The Indians would do controlled burns all the time. California, folks, is America fast forward. So what do you want us to do? There's no solution. He just says we need action. So this is the same thing. This is, if you want to be a good global citizen, pro tip, become an activist, but just general activism. You don't want to actually have demands. You want the good grown-ups at the World Economic Forum, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and the UN to make those demands for you. Your demands just need to be general systemic change. And then you could be one of the essential twerkers of the revolution.